Greetings class, my name is Marcus Lehman and I'm one of the TAs for your English 102 online course. And I'm also a PhD student here at the Southern Baptist Seminary. I work in the Writing Center, which is how I got to know Mrs. Kreider. And I'm going to be helping you a lot with your book reviews for this course, learning how to write academic book reviews. I've got three things that I'd like to cover in this video about getting started on writing our book review. The first thing is Mrs. Kreider has helpfully put up a lot of documents in a folder right there at the beginning of the Moodle page that are related to how to write a book review. I'd recommend reading those. One thing you should also read specifically is in the SBTS style guide, which you can download from the library's website, or you can also download it from the Writing Center website, is to look at section or chapter 3 of that. It's going to give you very detailed instructions for each section. So if you're a details person, you want to know from the beginning what you have to write for this assignment, I'd recommend reading through those resources, getting a clear idea from all of them what you should be doing, and you'll go back to them when you start writing. But just get a general idea of what you need to accomplish for this project. So first thing, read some of the instructions. It's all out there, and I think it will be helpful to know some of that going into what you're doing. Secondly, what to do while you're reading. Well, when we're writing a book review, we're not just reading this book for pleasure. Like my grandfather, who was my algebra teacher, always used to say, you don't cuddle up next to the fire with your Algebra 2 book. What you do is you read an Algebra 2 book with a pencil in your hand and a piece of paper. Usually you're sitting at a desk. We kind of have to take that idea when we come to reading for a book review. We're not just reading the book for the enjoyment of the book and to learn a few things as we go along. We're really looking to dive in, to dissect, to see what this book is teaching us, but also how it's laid out, all the nitty-gritty of how the author is making its argument, because in the end, we want our book review to help others know what this book is about, whether they should read it, and what are the most important benefits they could get from looking into a resource like this. So this is what we would call active reading as opposed to passive reading. So think active reading. You're going to need to be a little bit more engaged when you're reading a book like this. The other thing that I find helpful is the idea of reading and reviewing. Reading and reviewing. When we're reading for the purpose of reviewing a book, we need to work through the author's ideas in more of a linear fashion from beginning of chapter to the end of the chapter, but then we need to go back and we need to look at some of those things. One of the best ways is, if you like to highlight or you like to take notes in your book, as you mark those things up, finish the chapter, then go back and quickly review some of those things and help solidify in your mind what that chapter was about. Maybe you'll write down a few notes at the end saying chapter 2 contributed this to the main point of the book. So reading and reviewing, this is just a dimension of active reading, but I think it will serve you as you're going through the book to not waste your time. In other words, have to go back and reread everything when it comes time to finally write. You'll have already thought through, written notes in the margin, even taken some down on paper or your computer. Okay? So read the instructions. Think about how you're going to read, how you're going to engage this book. This is not a cuddle up by the fireside. We're actively reading, diving in to what this book is saying. But lastly, think about how should we be taking notes and what should we be taking notes on as we're practicing active reading. I've got 4 things here. I'll go ahead and start writing them down for us. The first thing we're obviously going to be looking for is the main point. Okay? The main point of the book. Now, when we do this, we don't want to assume that we got it right the first time. Sometimes this is going to require an initial understanding of the main point and then refining that as we read the book. What I like to do is read the introduction or skim it, trying to find the main point as best I can. Skip over to the conclusion, work through that and see if that confirms what I thought the main point was from skimming the introduction, and then write it down. Write it down and be willing to go back and change it. Be willing to be wrong about the main point, but at least you've got that active idea started so that you can then correct it and filter other things through that main idea. As we go through all the chapters of the book, we're obviously going to be thinking about How does this idea contribute to this? And does this clarify the main point for me? Maybe I did get something wrong. Or maybe it just confirms, yes, I did get it right. He's obviously doing this. So you're looking for the main point because in your book review, you need to communicate to your reader what is the main point of this book? What is the purpose that the author is trying to accomplish in writing this book? How do the various parts of the book support the main point? Okay? It's not good enough. Often we could read a book and just think, oh, there's a nice connection of ideas and themes. That's not going to cut it for doing a book review. We're going to have to tell our readers how the various parts of this book review contribute to the author making his main point. Every book's going to be different. Every argument and approach is going to be slightly different. So we're going to have to approach it again with active reading strategies, and you'll finish chapter 2, finish chapter 3, and you should probably ask yourself the question at the end of that chapter. How did this contribute to the main point? What was this chapter doing to develop the main point of this book? All right, point number 3, looking at strong and weak areas of the book. This is something that we tend to do more naturally. We tend to think of this as what it is to do criticism, to what it is to do an evaluation of something, looking at the strong and weak points of the argument, of the book itself. Now, this isn't so much writing down things that are in the book as it is writing down your thoughts about what is going on in the book and how the author is developing his argument or how he's writing or something of that nature. Now, writing this down early is helpful when you get ideas, because later on then you can start writing down examples of this. Because in your book review, you don't want to just say, the author uses good illustrations. You want to be able to give some good examples of that as well. And so writing these things down as you're working your way through the book will help you later on. It will save you a lot of time. So again, looking for strong and weak areas of both the book, its argument, its style, whatever that may be, looking for strong and weak areas. We want to consider memorable quotes, okay? Memorable quotes. Now this probably is something that most of us do most of the time when we're reading a book. We highlight something we liked, we highlight something we thought that was important, and this does play a part in our book review. We will use quotes far less than we may think we need to in our book review, but this will play a part. So it's good to have some of those on hand, even write down a category in your notes for what that book looked like, for what that quote is related to, so that you can find it more quickly when it comes time to write your book review. But again, looking at these 4 areas while we're reading the book, the main point, how do the different parts support that main point, strong and weak areas of the book, and then just some memorable quotes or memorable areas of the book will be helpful when we finally get to the process of writing our book review. And that's what we're going to cover in the next video.